You found us.
Welcome to Emergency Protocol, a podcast for people who are stressy and depressy.
We are your hosts,
Denise
and Jackie Freed. That's my mama.
And that's my baby.
We are sharing our 12 steps reimagined for today's society.
And our bumpy, pothole-ridden spiritual paths.
And we're bringing you along for the ride.
This is us doing the actual work.
When the shit hits the fan, you know it's time for Emergency Protocol.
Hi.
Hi.
So before we start talking, we're going to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to do that.
If you're not driving, close your eyes and think about what you're grateful for. And just take a deep breath in and exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Nice.
It's good. I was doing some physical therapy not long ago, and the woman told me that when you breathe through down to your belly, it releases the sternum and the solar plexus and kind of gets that upper chest a little less tight. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing those kind of breaths before bed now, and it does definitely relaxes my upper body from the tension of the day. Just a little tip I got from my physical therapist.
Nice.
Thanks, Jenna.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah. So it's been a minute since we've had, since we've gotten together and talked.
Well, they don't know that.
Well, now you do.
Okay, surprise. It's been a couple weeks.
It's been a couple weeks, but it was Thanksgiving. There was stuff going on. So yeah, we're going into the in-between of the holidays, which is kind of like the holidays are here because holiday parties, capitalism,
yes, and
Friday, Cyber days, all the days. Yeah.
Just opening the wallet.
Just opening the wallet and watching it go out.
Yeah. I will say our family has really scaled back in the capitalism department for the holidays. Because it used to be like when we were growing up, all the kids would get gifts from like every family and everybody would be gifting all kinds of stuff.
We would have piles of gifts in front of each
for
person.
Everybody. Yeah, not just the kids, for everybody. And then once all the kids became adults, well, actually you guys started it, I think, at Grammy's house, right?
Started picking names.
Yeah. So everybody would pick one name and they would just have to get one
Thanksgiving.
gift. At Thanksgiving.
Which is great because you can take advantage of all the sales right after. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once the grandkids got old enough, then we started doing that too.
Yeah.
So now the whole family does that. And Grandma Marfori passed. So that's changed Christmas a bit.
Yeah, because our Aunt Marilyn decided we're going to do a white elephant this year instead of picking names. So she's bringing some fun into the house because Grandma dictated. My grandma was against picking names. She wanted Christmas.
Yeah.
And so growing up, I remember Grandpa would buy everybody new shoes forever. Like that was a thing. Like everybody got new tennis shoes when we were kids growing up.
He did love shoes.
He did love shoes. He loved shoes and he loved chairs. Yeah,
Danish
shoes, chairs,
furniture, European delicacies.
Danish furniture, yeah, and all kinds of foods. He loved his sourdough rolls that were hard and crunchy on the outside, but soft and good on the inside.
Like
but they
so
had
hot
to be
you couldn't
warm.
even touch it.
Yeah, and you had to cut it with a fork, otherwise it would just get too. You had to stab it all the way around. Yeah, he was very particular about his food. I think it was from the world traveling that he did. So we've been attending this ACA meeting, and it's a workshop virtually. And Jackie read something which we can't find, but it had to do with something about financial insecurity as a means for continuing kind of like uncertainty and high cortisol and that sense of stress. And I think that I definitely identified with that because
Is that the inner drugstore thing that I read?
I was struck by that because I do struggle with financial security, even though I make great money. And I don't really ever feel like I'm like broke. Do you know what I mean? But I also haven't really taken care of my future the way I should have. And
Well,
so
you're shitting on yourself, Mama.
well, I am the way I could have. And so that struck me as maybe because another friend and I talk about this often because it's a trait we share. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why behaviorally this keeps happening. Do you know what I mean? So it was interesting. But basically, I want for nothing. I need for nothing. I make great money. I have a good job. I have security. I'm not in any kind of I'm in no dire place, right? And I'm not really worried about my future. But it's just interesting to think about where I come from and our money history in our family. Maybe changing the dynamic of that.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know that anybody really had money. My grandfather was born into a very wealthy family in the Philippines. But he left there when he was a teenager. His father was a gambler, and I think he gambled the money away, or something happened where my grandfather basically
deep in the
left,
genetic lineage.
left with the clothes on his back and said no, right? And worked his way here. And then I don't know anything about my mother's grandfather, my mother's father, or my grandfather on my mom's side. My grandmother was, they were from a poor family, like farmers in Oklahoma. And she worked her way out west.
Yeah. Was it the Four Winds?
Oh, yeah. The Kristen Hanna book definitely struck a chord with me and thinking about my grandma. I don't think she came out during the Dust Bowl, but I think there was definitely a migration of people coming to California, and that she landed up in kind of the Central Valley makes me think that was part of it. It was like where people were. It's a very interesting.
Wait, who landed in the valley?
I think Grandma. I think she was up
Grandma
in.
Betty?
Yeah, I don't know. I think she was up in. I have to look at my
I thought
ancestry
they
to see
just
where
came
she
to
lived.
Venice.
They ended up down in Venice, but she didn't start out in Venice. I think it was up near Bakersfield where there were cousins and people up there.
Interesting. I thought it was Venice because that was the only place that they could afford to live.
No, it was like the Mennonites lived up there. And then I think she met Grandpa, and they moved to Venice probably because McDonnell Douglas he was employed by McDonnell Douglas, and they built aircraft. Basically on Ocean Park Boulevard. It was a giant aircraft facility. And then, and it was probably affordable to live in Venice. Now, that being said, they did pay for their kids to go to private Catholic school and not the regular schools. So there must have been a little bit extra, because if there was no extra, they couldn't have afforded to do that. But I don't think there was a lot extra
or something.
Yeah, I don't know how they managed that, but they all went to Catholic
with 4
schools.
Kids. Yeah,
and so did my dad's side of the family, which is how Mom and Dad met. So there you go. Which is very different than the private schools that you went to.
Yes,
which were occupied by somewhat middle class, which is where we kind of fell, and then the 1% of the 1% is what it felt like. Like there was a definitely
it was there was upper class, upper middle
and
class,
and then scholarship.
Yeah.
So there was not a lot of gray.
Yeah.
And as the years went on, that gray disappeared more and more. When you started a private school, we I felt like it was just a little bit more than what we were paying for preschool. So it felt like it was going to be a stretch.
Which is also insane.
It
for
was also
preschool.
insane, but it was also like it was a working parents preschool. So for me, it filled the gap of if I needed you to stay a little later, I could. And
yeah. Oh, yeah. It was definitely after school, aftercare kid.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Until I started playing sports.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so, but then as the years went on, it got more expensive.
Way more expensive. Like all of a sudden, by the time you were done, it was the equivalent of a college tuition. So it was just like, but we were already in it.
Yeah.
So it was just like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. But yeah.
Look at me now, folks.
Yay.
This could happen to your private school child too.
Critical thinking. I said we paid extra for that whenever she and her sister say something
when I
very
unleashed
smart.
my inner liberal arts student.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, we paid extra for that
Sure
critical
did.
thinking.
Yeah.
Which is great because you do think, you do like question the source of stuff. You do like dig a little before you just accept whatever's handed to you on a plate.
I stopped being a bystander too.
Yeah.
I think that was something that was really important that I got in college. There was basically like there's a phenomenon where if there's like an accident or like a disaster or something, like something, and multiple people witness it, they assume that everybody else is making the call to 911, right? And so even if I'm duplicating a call, I'm always going to be that caller.
I always make the call too. Anyhow, I don't know what all that has to do with whatever we're talking about today, but I think it's just about money. It's just about money and, but I've always,
I think it was this line. I know you said it wasn't, but I think it was this. So there's a laundry list is what they call it in ACA. And trait number 8 is we became addicted to excitement. And so originally when it was written, we became addicted to fear, but then the wording was changed to addicted to excitement for clarity. And then they say either way, excitement or fear, adult children use both to mimic the feeling of being alive, when in reality, they are recreating a scene from their family of origin. Gossip, dramatic scenes, pending financial failure, or failing health are often the turmoil that adult children create in their lives to feel connected to reality. While such behavior is rarely stated as such, these behaviors are an addiction to excitement or fear. And then it goes on to talk about the inside drugstore, which is a fascinating concept that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
That could be it.
So it's basically saying that, like, if you experience turmoil growing up as an adult, if you haven't like healed those things, you basically seek out conditions that recreate those same emotions because that's what you know, and that is what feels safe and familiar.
Got it. Even though it's not safe.
Even though it's not safe.
It's just familiar.
It's just familiar. But it's like the devil,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I also want to point out too, again, here's my liberal arts hat.
Yes.
Right? There's so many like layers to this, right? Like women couldn't apply for their own credit cards in the United States until the 70s. Like
Correct.
you were already a child.
Yes.
Once that was possible, right?
Yes.
And so there's a whole history throughout like all of history, but in the United States is particularly for this conversation where women have been like financially and economically kept at bay and not given any kind of financial literacy training or education or access to finances for years and years and years.
Correct.
And so it's no wonder that on top of having a job, on top of raising kids, that women are still financially behind.
And we're also making less.
And there's also...
Because
we're the ones that make the babies.
Sales tax.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the pink tax.
The pink tax.
Yeah.
So there's lots of reasons why women feel less secure in their finances than men. But also, it's interesting that you say that because I was in my abundance. I went on a trip to Norway a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I was in this museum, and it was a museum of weavers. It was like all these weavers, and my mom's a weaver, so I wanted to go in and kind of take pictures and send her the patterns of things. And one of the things that they were talking about was the rights of women back hundreds of years. and women could inherit. So if their husband passed away, the wife would inherit the business and the land and the property, and not the first male heir, right? Which is kind of, so it was, I was
sense.
like, yeah. So when I'm over there, I'm like, we're so behind. Like, and then it also dawned on me, we are still a new country in relation to other countries that have been steeped in their traditions and how they've lived for a lot longer than we have. So, but I was struck by that. I was like, okay, well, we didn't get that one right out of the gate, but
now I think single women are a higher rate of like homeowners than single men.
Well, not only that, there's a higher rate of women applying to colleges. There's like even looking at your sister's school, there was a white coat ceremony. I think there was 80-something women and maybe 20 men. For the year one.
Odds are good at vet school.
Year one at vet.
You're a heterosexual man.
Exactly. But that also brings me to question, and I think it showed up this year in our election, is where, what is happening to these men too, right? Like now that we're asserting our power and doing doing what we feel we can do and doing it, why are men not also doing that? Why has there been a retreat? And maybe that's part of the reason we're having this kind of fight right now with women's rights, because men know they're getting.
Yeah, the good enough. It's the concept of like the good man, right? This is so funny that you're bringing this up because I'm reading a book right now called This American Ex-Wife by Liz Lenz. It's I guess it's a memoir. She talks about her divorce and how she's like in the middle of the Sun Belt, right? It's like the upper Midwest, Rust Belt. I don't know. One of the, coastal elite.
Central America?
Yes, Central America. That is a Freed family inside joke. Maybe we'll tell that at the end. But in my coastal elitism, I don't know what that's called. Anyways, but she's kind of going into this whole thing about how like she married a good man and he was a provider. He was a really good dad. He went to church. He prayed. Like he checked all of the good man boxes. And yet he constantly was making like sexist comments to her. She packed his lunch, his grown man lunch for work every day for 10 years until she had their second kid. She had like a toddler and a newborn. And she was like, I just can't do it anymore. And he's like, why don't you love me anymore? You're not making my lunches. Right. And so she just goes on. And then she talks about how like a lot of other women she's spoken to have said like, but he's a good man about their own marriages. Right. And so I think there's like this reckoning that's happening right now where the institution of like heterosexual relationships and marriage is really being examined, and all of the kind of imbalances are really being brought into the light, and that's making people really uncomfortable. Because for the last 2 generations or 3 generations, there was a very clear example of like, if you're not a physical or sexual or verbal abuser, you're a good man, basically, right? If you don't step out on the family, if you keep paying bills, you're a good man, right? And so I think it's challenging because women are stepping up financially and they are still also doing a majority of the housework in a majority of these relationships, right? And she said that she's written a bunch of articles about this as well. And every time in her email and like the comments, there's all these men being like, well, I don't do that. And she's like, it's not about like the individual case by case basis. It's like overall as a category, this is like a pattern that we're seeing.
Well, and I think that's true in that even this year, right? So we haven't, I used to, before the pandemic, have Christmas Eve every year. And it would ended up being around 40 to 50 people in our little house. And I'd cook all the food.
Yep.
I'd shop for all the food. Your dad would do a turkey. And I would do the rest, basically. You know, I mean, with a certain amount of, like, everybody had to get their own house over.
Just getting it, folks.
Yeah. And so it's like, you know, you guys were asking me this year, which I kind of acquiesced this afternoon, but it was just like, you know, I didn't want to bring it back. It's just like so much work. Literally a shopping cart full of stuff from Costco and 2 shopping carts full of groceries from Kelson's out the door to cook, it's not even pre-prepared food.
Yeah.
And
luckily, I don't think we even have the fridge or freezer space for all
we
that
don't, because we used to
anymore,
have a fridge in this room, which is
liberation.
So I was like, okay, well, we could do it again, but it's going to look different. Like, it's going to be potluck. It's going to be a lot smaller, only a few, the closest families, we call the village.
Yeah.
And the family. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Maybe a friend here or there. Like, you know what I mean? And so, but knowing that, it's like, I think what I'm reckoning myself with now is with not having the same amount of physical juice that I used to have. It's like, okay, well, I'm already doing a party in my office on Wednesday for a couple hundred, you know, people. And there's stuff that we're doing around that because it's in the office this year instead of out, but we've hired a party plan. We've hired people to help, but it still requires more than just showing up to a restaurant or a bar or a club or whatever. And then it's also me weighing, like, how much have I committed to and how much do I have left? So I was like, okay, well, this is the last party for that. I don't have any more sales meetings for the rest of the year. I'm pretty much like just meeting with people one-on-one and kind of helping them, like, figure out what their business planning is for 2025.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'll recover from this party by 2 weeks to do something at our house. But it took me a long time to figure out if I even wanted to do that. And we haven't done it since before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, before today, I was like, do we really need to bring that back? But you know what? I think we do it. The payoff of feeling that we have Christmas Eve with people we care about outweighs the desire to not do work.
Yeah.
So
it's community, right? It's community, and feeding people is like kind of a form of mutual aid, and
right. And it's people we don't see a lot of, but it's people you've certainly grown up with since you were before you could crawl.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that kind of
And we got a kind of preview with Halloween too, right? Like there was a lot, but it was manageable, right? With postcard night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing that it's you, like, you're the one who makes all of the holiday magic in our house. You've always been that way. Like, if there's decorations going up, it's because you put them up there.
Oh, literally. So wait. We're putting up the tree. We all go, we buy the tree. We get a smaller tree. We put it on this table, which, you know, so Nala can have her little house underneath the tree. And the tree is fully decorated. And my husband goes, you know, it looks like there could use a few more lights at the top. And I was like, you need to stop talking right now. Like, that time for that was an hour ago when we were stringing up the lights. Like, no, sir, you did nothing. And then at the end, when it's fully done, you're going to say it needs more lights at the top. I was like, oh, I'm
Shit.
going to strangle you. But, you know, it's,
This is the thing. The lady.
that's what we're talking
Liz
about.
was talking about it in this book. She's like, all of these moments just get laughed off
right.
because you want to be the easygoing, chill girl. You don't want to cause drama or whatever.
Right.
So you just laugh it off.
Right.
But like,
But
women
that
are
tree
the
did
holiday
not get
magic.
decorated by itself.
Correct.
And he did not decorate it.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 And like my instinct now is also to like defend him
Yeah.
and I'll make allowances. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
he's old and
And he's
whatever,
Jewish.
and
He
worked.
doesn't
Yeah.
do Christmas. He does
Yeah.
Hanukkah.
But
He makes latkes. Makes
Yeah.
the whole house smell like fried potatoes.
yeah. Which we all happily eat.
Happily
and
eat. They
benefit
are
from.
delicious.
Yes.
Fresh out of the oil are the best
Yes.
kind of latkes. But
Yeah.
still,
So,
Yeah.
but that's also how it's been for every other household in our family. Grandpa Mitch was not making the Christmas magic at their house. Grammy
No.
was making the Christmas magic at their house.
and there's never been one man in Grandma Marfori's house doing the dishes after the whole meal was served.
after all the women cooked the meal.
Cooked the meal, shopped for the meal, made the meal.
Would Grandpa cook?
Grandpa was definitely a cook.
Grandpa would cook.
Grandpa was a great cook.
yeah.
But Grandma was not. I mean, she was a good cook, but
Yeah.
my aunt pulled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And my dad is a good cook. So I think my
Yeah.
dad cooked, but not for the holidays.
Yeah.
And so my aunt still does the lion's share of the cooking.
Yeah.
But not one man helps with the cleanup.
no.
They help put away tables and chairs, TV trays,
Yeah.
and things like that.
At the very, very end. Okay,
Yeah.
so to bring it all the way back and
Yes.
make this whole man bashing conversation all the way around, there's an opportunity cost that affects women because of all this time that's invested into the home and making family and making memories.
Right. Because we're also working full-time jobs now. And also, like, you know, someone texted me the other day because I was doing some outreach about this party. And she was saying, like, I'm the only one that my kids will go to bed. I'm the only one that can put them to bed. And I
Yeah.
was like, of course, right? Like, and so it's kind of like that. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of guilt around working moms too, just mom guilt, period, around, you know, taking care of your children and, you know, being a good mom. And what does that look like? And what is the pedestal we need to like be at to be this kind of person? So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
And now
'cause-
there's like we're past the mommy blogger era. Now it's like the momfluencer era. It's just so intimidating.
Right. And so that's the thing. It's like there's all these unrealistic expectations and things that are put out there. But I think I didn't want to, I almost don't want to look at it as like a man bashing. I think it's just I feel like it's a
woman's
like a
reckoning.
reckoning.
Again, we're decentering the male part of this and
Right.
focusing. It's an
the
issue that's
tasks.
affecting heterosexual, straight, cisgendered women particularly.
Yes. I did one time when I was really mad at your dad. It was right after you were born, and he was invited to some sort of man group, I don't know, man empowerment, whatever, which would have been great in a different circumstance, but literally
Yeah.
you had just been born. And because he was a man who was married with a child, who owned his own business, he grew right up into the, you know, the hierarchy pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so he was gone like a lot. And I lost my shit on him one day. And because I was like at my wit's end, I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm here all day. I mean, I was still home with you. That's how little you were. You were like, I was still not
Baby,
working.
baby.
And I lost it. and he was like, what do we want? A divorce? And I was like, no, I want help. And I was like, I wish I was a lesbian because I could use a wife, not a husband. And it's like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like, right, I could use a wife, but even in my own brain,
Yeah.
the wife has the responsibility
And the
of
mental
doing all
load.
these things. The laundry, the cleaning,
Doctor's
the
appointments.
diapering, the doctor's appointments, the calendaring, the signing the permission slips, the fucking, I got to
Email
build a
list.
mission, which I'm glad to hear they're not doing in schools anymore. Finally.
Yeah.
You know, but it was like, okay, we got to build a mission out of popsicle sticks by tomorrow. I have to build this mission, Mommy. Okay, well, when is it due? Tomorrow. Well, honey, it's 5:00. Like, yeah, we got to go to Michael's. And I was like,
So
guess Mommy's building a mission tonight.
I guess that's also a point for Jackie's childhood ADHD symptoms. I'm just gonna note
I
that
could have
right
been your
there.
sister as well. That's I don't know who.
Well,
I don't know which one of you
These
did
things
that, but
can be
I do
genetic.
recall.
No. I remember what it was. I had to make a diorama for one of my classes, and it was a night when you had like a women's workshop, and the babysitter was there, and you were like, "Here's the stuff, bye."
Yes,
Because you're like, I'm not.
And you guys had made a
We
great
cranked it
diorama.
out. Oh yeah, it was great.
It was beautiful.
Super proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, babysitter.
It was Becky.
I know it was
Love
Becky.
you, Becky.
Yes. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we went from money to that, but I think it's all tied in together, right? It's
It
like
is
this
tied in.
thing of the responsibility when women went to work, that all the added extra responsibility did not get divided. And
That's part of our family lineage for sure. And so that also ties into this thing of perpetuating what you know, right? And what the example has been,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are.
Here
Cycle
we are.
breakers.
Oh my God. Yeah. Right. So another thing, this is a very ACA heavy podcast today.
Okay.
But another thing that I wanted to share was I have this like little daily reader from them, and the reading is a little bit intense, so I'm not going to share that part. But, well, actually, anyways, I don't know. Yeah. The part that stood out to me was at the very end, which was, on this day, I trust that I am going in the right direction and that I have all the support I need when I am willing to ask. That's a really big one, because like feeling like I need to do it all alone is definitely a thing.
Yeah, but I almost never ask either.
Yeah. So with Christmas, I think we all, knowing how much work you put in, said like, balls in your court if you want to do this. If you don't want to do it, we
everybody
support
was like,
you.
Mom, do you want to do Christmas Eve? No one asked him if he wanted to do Christmas Eve, because of course he wants to do Christmas Eve.
Well, he already said he was doing the turkey no matter what.
Yeah.
So anyways, but I think I meant it more as like, it's going to be in your home. Obviously, it's not going to be in my home because we can't fit 15 people in my house for a meal. But I think we all ask because it is your home that you're going to have to prepare.
Right.
And we can bring food and we can help you set up and this and that. But ultimately, like, you're still going to have to do the back end work.
Right.
And front load all of that. Right.
Correct.
So, yeah, I think we said we would support you in whatever decision you made.
Yeah.
Because we weren't going to tell you we wanted Christmas Eve.
But you did want Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's something.
I mean, we
nice.
haven't, the things when we haven't done it, like the first one year I didn't do it because I think it was maybe the year Damon died or something where I was just, I had no.
Yeah, we did Chinese.
We did Chinese and maybe went to a movie or something.
Yeah.
And it was like the weirdest Christmas ever.
It would have been the weirdest Christmas ever already.
I was, but I was just like, ooh, that didn't feel Christmassy. So
yeah. Anyways. You said, yes, we'll do Christmas Eve, but we're going to make it a potluck.
Yes.
And did anybody say, oh no, how dare you? I can't believe you're
No, I haven't told anybody yet.
Well, you told us.
Yeah, but I'm sure some of my friends are going to be like, are you making the spinach? Or are you making the
Then assign the spinach. I'll make the spinach.
Are you making the...
Great.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, is ask for help if you want. Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's and so this is going back to where I started, is that I do this to myself. right? Like I overachieve at work. I overreach it. I overdo everything, right? And so even last weekend, I think it was last weekend, we went to see Wicked.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, your sister's here for the weekend. She's going to be with us. Let's go see Wicked at 4:00. You know, it'll be nice because it's like we can do whatever you want in the daytime and it's not quite night if you guys are going out or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a nice little time. And then one of my best friends and her daughter decided to come with us. And then it was like, oh, well, they're coming with us, so let's go have dinner. And then I was like, well, we're already in Century City. I also need something at the Container Store. So now this 3-hour movie time is now a 5-hour movie time.
Yes.
And that's what I do to myself. And then I get mad and I get martyry and I get like tired and then I don't want to do other stuff. And I realize like all of those little things have a cost. And so,
But it's also efficiency too, right? Like, would you be more tired if you had to drive to Century City tomorrow instead to go get the thing that you needed?
I don't want to do
So,
that. I'm already
yeah.
going to be there. So let's go an hour early and we'll
Yeah.
wander around because we knew it's going to be a holiday. But it was like, we needed just the extra half hour just to park on that day because we forgot it was Thanksgiving weekend, right? So it was just packed full of people shopping. And even at work, like I'm trying to figure out how to delegate, but also lead and grow leadership around me, right? So this last week, you know, we do a sales meeting every week where we're talking about what new initiatives are coming out, what new technology we have, or technology that's had an upgrade, or whatever it is, news across way we do business, whatever it is that we need to get out to everybody. And we usually have a report from our marketing people and from the people who help with our platform and our compliance department. Like there's all these different departments that weigh in during this time. And I lead and plan almost every single one of those meetings except for when I'm out of town, and I delegate those to my co-manager. West, I know you're listening. Well, you will someday because you do listen. And West was out of town this week, but we had our meeting on Thursday, and I looked at next year's calendar. And there are 24 meetings, and I was like, okay, each of you are in charge of one meeting. You have artistic license. Of course, I want you to run the content by me first, just to make sure it's relevant to because they're not from real estate, right? So one was like, Lizzie was like, oh, I'll do a soup off. And I was like, no, it's not just fun, right? It can be fun. You can add fun. But if you want to have a panel or you want to bring in a speaker or you want to go into a deep dive on some product thing that you think people really need help with or whatever it is, you get to run with it. Then I gave everybody the whole calendar of the year and a spreadsheet. And I'm like, and then whatever the balance is, I'm splitting with West. So West gets to plan half of what's left. And it's like, okay, now I'm not planning 24 meetings a year. I'm going to plan probably, let's see, minus 9, 8. I'm going to plan like 9 meetings a year, right? Which is way, I think, in relieving me of all of that, it'll allow me to do a better job at those 9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. So I'm just trying to find ways of letting other people step into their own leadership, but also leveraging what I need to oversee and that stuff that has to be done no matter what. So I'm learning to let go. But Jackie used to say to me when we worked together all the time, everything I let go of had scratch marks all over it. Because I would, like she'd have to pry it out of my cold, dead hands. Because I'm a control freak. And I want things done the way I want things done.
Yeah.
And I don't realize, like, often the way somebody else does it is better than I would have done it. And I didn't even like doing it. Right? So Why does it have to be done my way when I don't even like doing that? Like
But also, did she adjust the pom-pom garland that I put up when we were decorating? She sure did.
Yes, I did.
I called it. I was like, I know you're just going to change that. You're going to adjust
She said I was
this.
going to do the whole thing. I only did one part of the thing.
Okay. I was like, yeah.
It's because you said it didn't look good. So I was like, okay,
well,
well,
I said I wasn't
add.
sure.
So we added another
it
thing.
didn't look good.
No, she said, you're like, that doesn't look right. And I was like,
Oh.
okay. So I added the second garland.
Okay.
We had 2.
Okay.
Yes.
We did a collab.
Scratch marks. Anyway. Yeah. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So there are still lessons being learned.
Yeah. I'll say for my part, I'm definitely like working through my like teenage things that are still with me in all kinds of ways. I'm a lot more aware. First of all, since this is the TMI podcast, I'm a lot more aware of my period and like my menstrual cycle. And I notice right before my period, I tend to get super, super emotional and like really, yes. Yeah. Which is normal. But I get like, oh, am I, caution warning, am I like actually suicidal right now? No. I was like, and then my period comes. I'm like, oh. But 2 days before I got my period, we saw Wicked. And also I will say that the theater in which you watch a movie actually does impact your experience of the movie.
Oh.
In terms of like the layout and how close you are to the screen and the speakers and the intimacy of it. First time we saw it felt a lot more intimate than the second time when I was in a bigger theater at the very back. So that was also an interesting learning experience.
And also the week of periods in our house we used to call Shark Week.
Shark Week. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just to give you an idea of what that was like.
Yeah. So anyway, but there's one scene in Wicked, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I was literally, when we were sitting the first time in that theater, I was suppressing like full body racking sobs. Like I was about to be a fucking fountain. I'm the bonker.
You were the bonker.
I'm the bonker. I was suppressing massive sobs. I was like...
Because you were identifying with her feeling, or because of the compassion you felt for her?
All of it. I just felt like, I mean, I think that's part of the genius of the story, right?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people can connect to it for a lot of different reasons. But anyways, I was sitting there and I was like, I'm about to disrupt this whole theater if I start crying. Yeah. So I just like kept it all in. Like a few tears came out. And then again, the second time I saw it, I was like, I wonder if it'll be that same experience. And I did cry again. Mm-hmm. It was not the same experience, but I just remember being like flooded with emotion that night. And then, and then we had like an ACA meeting. We were talking about teenager stuff, and then I had therapy, and it's just like stuff that I thought I had worked through in therapy.
Yeah. Welcome.
It's still here.
Welcome to my world.
38 it's really
years
intense.
later.
Yeah. But it's really hard. It's so hard to look at myself and to write out all my shit. I did also have one night this week where I just started writing a whole bunch of stuff. Right. And then I worked more again on my inventory. And just bringing this stuff to my awareness is bringing me through some stuff. So take gentleness breaks if you're also doing this work. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what I also want to talk about, my frustration.
It's going to be a fucking long ass podcast.
Okay, well.
Maybe we'll break it into 2 parts.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll save it for next time then.
Okay.
But for next
time. Will you remember what it is?
We'll write it down when we're done.
Okay.
So save it. Save my frustration for next week.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But I'm happy to be doing this with you. I'm glad that we have this kind of regular cadence, even though some weeks we're writing, some weeks we're talking, and
we are still having our meetings.
And we're having our meetings. So if you want to come in person, you live in LA.
Yes. Let us know.
Email us.
No, don't email us. No. There's a form.
There's a form. There's a link, a Google form.
where you can sign up. We're not going to sell or share your information. Everybody will be BCC'd. But if you want to come, we have that. And we also have a concept of an online meeting.
Yeah.
For Sunday nights. Again, that's a little tricky.
That
in this
one we'll
weird
probably do it
season.
after the holidays.
Yeah.
We'll start that after the holidays where people can join us virtually from wherever you are.
Yeah. We've got some other stuff in the works too. I think we're working on an actual workshop in addition to our little workbook.
Yep.
And yeah.
Busy, busy, busy. In my spare time, all that spare time that we just talked about.
Yeah. Right? I know. I just started I had my first crisis text line shift and I was like, oh, yep, 200-hour commitment. There it is.
200 hours when?
Just like in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, it felt good. And I'm basically doing the AA thing of being of service to other people, even though my shit's not together.
Yeah.
Because helping people helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Because people just want to talk to somebody and have somebody listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I did a good job.
I'll bet you did. You're a good listener.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're empathetic.
Yeah.
And I think, there was an AA hotline, CA hotline. There probably still is hotlines.
Yeah.
There's lots of people who just call the hotlines.
Tons of hotlines. We can put those in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Holidays are not for the lighthearted. They bring up a lot of stuff because it's like, were expectations met? Usually not, right?
You're also with your family, often like the most intimate relationships you have.
Which can be great or not great or all
Very
of the above.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, we didn't have to experience this because we live near everybody. There's a lot of travel involved with people that requires, people are just tired, a little more tired on top of everything. And sick and tired.
Season. Yeah.
Sick and tired.
And there's also food stuff and alcohol stuff.
And then what am I going to wear on New Year's Eve? And then I'm going to go to this New Year's Eve. And then who am I going to kiss when it turns midnight?
Ugh. In a mid/post-COVID era, nobody.
You're right. But, it was a lot of pressure when I was growing up. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to just kiss anybody.
Yeah.
And then and then you got to fucking find a way around people when the clock's getting closer. It's like, I'm going to the bathroom. Yeah. Gotta go. Gotta get out of this.
Right. Ideally, you get out before they turn the house lights on, too.
Anyhowsels.
Yeah.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Drink some water.
Yeah.
You're a fucking miracle.
You're a miracle. We're the miracles.
We are the miracles. You are the miracles. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Hang up already.
That's what it feels like. Okay, for real. Bye. Okay.
Bye.
We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and TikTok at 12 Steps for Everyone. That's at the number 12 Steps for Everyone.
Please like and follow us. You can also send us topics you want us to dig into or follow-up questions from each episode.
And if you know someone who would enjoy or benefit from our conversations, please feel free to share this with them. All are welcome here.